Also very important is our health, all of our health. And I'll tell you, I am not much one for weeks or days or International Day of the Gay Turtle or International Day of this or that or World Something Week. But there is one that I'm kind of interested in, and it's purely self-interest. It happens to be Men's Health Week this week. And this is all across New Zealand, I understand. I'm not sure if it's international. And it looks to draw attention to the issues that us blokes face when seeking help with our health or looking to maintain and improve our health. Issues in the limelight this week include heart disease, which us guys are more than 20% likely to die of than women, prostate cancer, and, of course, mental health, which affects many of us, not just men. So our guest now is a GP, he's an author, and he's a founder of the medical aviation service, The Flying Doctors, which provides medical services to pilots located in remote areas of New Zealand. His book, Healthy Bastards, encourages Kiwi blokes to lose the stigmas around getting help with their health. And his name's Dave Baldwin, Dr Dave Baldwin. Dr Dave, welcome to the platform. Lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk on your program, eh?
Hey, where are you coming to us from, Dave?
Yeah, just my office and my little home in the centre of the universe, Palmerston North.
My favourite place.
Well, apparently, all astrological charts have star signs pointing towards Palmerston North, so there is something deep and meaningful here.
It's on a ley line or something like that, Dave. First, I want to ask you, Dave, right, by comparison to women in New Zealand, are men healthier or less healthy?
Less healthy. You just have to go to a rest home for that. You'll see one alpha male and about 20 women. My statistics that are, they're always changing, but on average, men live 5 years less than women. Of all the 15 leading causes of mortality, men score higher, and the trend is worldwide. And biologically, there is no reason for this apart from environmental stuff. So the aim is to try and change that, and that's why I set up the Healthy Bastards campaign.
Yeah. Is that trend improving, or are we closing that gap, or is it widening or staying the same?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, really. I would say it hasn't changed much. Generally speaking, women live longer, and it's sad, and it's a great credit to people having a thing like Men's Health Week to draw attention to it. I think men are changing in there. A lot of men are changing, but my angle has always been on the third of men who won't listen, the hardcore. They're not stupid. It's just somehow the standard health messages aren't getting through to them. So that's why I actually set up the Healthy Bastards campaign and tried the non-PC angle. So, I seem to be making a bit of traction, so fingers crossed, eh?
Yeah, look, I think there is something intrinsically in the male psyche. We are programmed culturally. I don't know if it is genetically to at least project an image of strength, independence and resilience. And the idea that you go to a professional saying something is wrong with me just at a very fundamental level is more challenging, I think, for a male than a female.
Yeah, I think that is true, I suppose, but it is changing. Like, say, I've been doing my flying doctor service right around the South Island. That's seeing pilots and doing aviation medical stuff and a bit of general practice. And about 20 years ago, if I'd say to a pilot in some back block of the West Coast, look, maybe we should check your prostate out, you'd probably have to keep an eye on that right hook. That thing, I'm some sort of, weirdo. But now, I say, look, we really should check your prostate out. Look, they've got their trousers off as quick as, and yeah, look, I've got friends who've died of prostate cancer, please check me out. And so there is an attitude change forming, and Men's Health Week helps us, and it's great.
Yeah. What's the stuff that the blokes aren't getting checked that they really should, and what's taking their lives? If we were going to pick two or three things that we could improve?
Well, I think it's an overall attitude, really. Somehow we need to get across to men that the greatest gift they've got is their body. And when you're young, it takes all the hits, and it very quickly repairs itself. But as it gets older, it suffers, it doesn't repair itself, and it wears out pretty quick. So I think the key issue is to recognise the body in all its complexity needs to be taken care of. So I don't really want to focus on heart, prostate, whatever. It's an overall celebration of this most amazing machine, and I'm an engineer for it. All GPs are. We are an engineer for the most brilliantly designed machine ever, and you have to take care of it.
Well, you have to take it to the garage occasionally and get a warrant, right?
Yeah. It's right. And look, it's great. We get all sorts of people turning up now that never used to. And likewise, there's a great feel. So I think a lot of men are changing, but still it's that hardcore. You go down to, the pubs or whatever, and you see where I work in Bulls. I've been there 33 years now, and I just love the place. That's my medical centre there. It's a great place. And what you find as a GP is you form relationships with patients. It sounds weird, but you almost get to love them, but not in a creepy physical sense. You love them because
none of that.
People come and see you. Now, when the cops ring you in their middle life, about 40 or 50, and say, "Oh, Bill's died," will you come down to the morgue and sign them off? It sort of does your head in a bit when you're in this cold concrete room signing them off, and you think, what could have I done to have changed things? And that's the whole aim of what I'm trying to do with this Healthy Bastards campaign. So that's why I appreciate talking to you. Somehow communicating.
I guess too, though, you've got to have access to a GP, and let's be honest, there are gaps and there are cracks in our health system, and particularly in primary care, aren't there?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. But see, when I first started this game, I thought, I was doing huge hours as a GP, and I thought, well, what do I do here? The first thing is government intervention. Why don't I go and talk to the people who know what they're doing? Well, it took about 2 seconds to realise you're flogging a dead horse. Somehow or other, we're not getting the leadership. So I thought, I don't want to get depressed. My medicines are calling for me. I'm going to do my Healthy Bastards campaign and do my best, and I'm making some traction. But there's no question, the primary health care is under great strain. Like, I don't know how many years I've written to health ministers to say, look, it won't be long. The average age of a GP in the Manawatu will be 60 or more. Who's going to replace them? What are you doing? And even, I'll give you an example. I love this example. COVID-4. Everyone's stuck at home, making their hamburgers at home, and then COVID level 3 comes up where there's this huge hype. Oh, we go to the takeaways. And a lot of that's really poor nutritional food. So I got hold of a top health department guy and said, look, you're going to make announcements with this COVID-3. Why don't you just throw in there that, look, you've made it a great family thing, making your own burgers, and it's half the cost and they're quite nutritious. Why don't you just say to everyone, no, why don't you keep the habit going rather than going down the road and getting poor quality food at a
what a good
price,
idea.
And, yeah, it's right. Now, when I got hold of this top shot, and he emailed back and said, it's funny you should say that, Dave, quite a few people have actually emailed me to that effect, but nothing happened. Those announcements weren't made. So I just say, well, why don't you make them, because the takeaway industry that's strong, you need to promote healthy eating.
Do you get any government funding? You got any grants for what you do, Dave?
No, I don't want it either. I'm a one-man band. I love the creativity that I've created through the Healthy Bastards campaign. I've been doing talks for over 30 years. I'm on my 6th book. I love the creativity. I don't want to be cramped in any style. even though things have moved on a little bit in two angles. One is I created a charitable trust called the Healthy Bastards Helping Hand Fund. So any talks, like I've got a talk on Sunday night, this crowd's giving us $3,000 for an hour talk. Now that money goes into the fund. And I really want to develop that so I can help, people who need it. But you really, that's chicken feed. Somehow or other, one day I'll get an income stream and make it happen. So, I don't want to be
I'd say you are making it happen, Dave. I want to get personal with you now, though. What are the things you've faced and dealt with health-wise?
Sorry, say that again, sorry?
I want to get personal. What issues health-wise worry you personally the most, and what have you had to deal with your own health?
Well, personally, at 65, I've got a gold card. I'm truly blessed. I can pull a deer out of the bush. I reckon I could do a couple of rounds in the ring and nothing hurts. But on the other hand, we lost a son to suicide. That was tough. And no one saw it coming. So, I lost my brother in a helicopter accident. So by the time you get to 65, you've taken some shit in your life, and often it's out of your control. But I'm very careful with my own body. I always start the day with a 30-minute prayer mantra session, and I've got an exercise regime. I've always loved martial arts stuff, so I want to live life to the max personally. But these left of centre things come and boof, you just got to roll with it, eh?
Yeah.
Get up and go for it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned mental health, which I think is a huge issue for men, and the statistics and our suicide statistics absolutely bear that out. Why are we so useless at keeping out, well, not as a general, but why do so many of us fail to keep our heads straight?
Well, it's very complex. You can't, if people are depressed, then they're high risk, and there's millions of reasons why they can be depressed. Drug seekers and drug abusers often end up that way. And from my angle, what I've sort of learnt through my son and also lots of other people out there who are high achieving and brilliant young people, is that what I've learnt is everyone has a cracking point. And so if you just accept that, almost in our DNA, we have a cracking point, you'll develop a mechanism to deal with it. So, when the flood comes, you've got a house on stilts, haven't you? So what I say is that, right, if you've set it up so if the black dog comes, then you've got a mountain to climb, or people who warned out to ring, and suddenly you snap out of it and you're fine. Because I think with young, high-achieving people, it comes very quickly. And it certainly did with my son.
Tell us about your son, Dave. Do you look back at that and say, man, that could have... And obviously you would hope with all your heart that it could have worked out different. Obviously other young men and men in general are at risk around the country. What kind of advice can you give fathers and sons about that sort of stuff? Because you've lived it. You've been there.
Well, yeah, that's right. Well, from the personal point of view, I'm the only one that went to the morgue to see Mark. And, from my point of view, I didn't cry or anything like that. My heart went out to him. I said, Mark, I went through these black moments, bro, Don't worry about it. I'll rebuild. I'm a street fighter. You get back up and I'll celebrate. So we have the most awesome aviation medical centre called the Mark Baldwin Aerospace Research Centre. But what I can do in terms of advice for other men, and daughters too, is I'm very fortunate in the way I write, like the New Zealand Outdoor Hunting magazine, I write. And I've got a book called The Bushman's Bible, and I spread that around mountain huts. There's about 1,500 of them, got them in there. And what I do in this journey is I go to certain areas and bring out the history. So, I just loved an article I did a couple of months ago on the base of Mount Cook, and I dropped these books around with James Scott in his helicopter, and I was able to bring into the article Frida de la Feur, who was the first woman to climb Mount Cook in 1910. Now, she committed suicide. So again, I could bring in the article exactly what I was saying before, is what Frida de la Feur, highly talented, beautiful, and highly motivated. My sons are saying, what's going on here? Well, the thing is...
Yeah, I want to give you... And I don't... Yeah. I think a lot of what we're talking about here is resilience and the acceptance of failure, and that we're not bulletproof and we're not perfect, and life has its bumps, and you got to learn to deal with them. I want to, and you may know this story. I'd rather not mention the person's name on here. A very good friend of mine is an aviator, or has been an aviator most of his life, and he had a son who, against his wishes, also went into aviation. But his son suffered a pretty gnarly workplace accident just before Christmas last year, and he lost much of one of his legs. He was at the time a young helicopter pilot. That young man is now back flying with an artificial leg, and he hasn't let that what for many would just be a completely life-altering accident. This young guy has in many ways just said, I'll carry on, just with a little bit less body weight. And I look at him and I think and I want to do a story on him because I think he's such a shining example of a young man of resilience, of saying, and that's a pretty bad thing to lose a limb, and that's traumatic. He is back flying again, 7-8 months later. I just think it's a remarkable story. I'd love to hook you guys up, actually, so you could talk to him.
But we have to be careful. You have to be very careful in saying that, because when you promote that resilience, what you're also implying is that people who do commit suicide are weak and aren't resilient, because I certainly got it back in the early days. We have someone in my scenario like Mark, 24, certified to fly helicopters, fixed wing, black belt, taekwondo, loved by everyone, 1,500 turn up at the funeral. And he was really tough. I'm saying to you, it's really important not to push the resilient bit, to recognise everybody has a cracking point.
Yeah.
And you do, I do. And if you do then, so it doesn't matter how resilient you are, what can crack you it won't crack me. Yeah. It's personal.
Well, I must admit, I know I've got a cracking point because I've hit it several times in my life. And at the end of the day, I just said, okay, so I might well be there again tomorrow, next month, next year. It comes for you. It's not how you fall down, it's how you get up. But you do have to accept that you're going to fall down, don't you?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though, just on a slightly lighter note, in this latest New Zealand Outdoor Magazine article I wrote, I only got a few days hunting in the bush, and it was a total disaster. But I did quote Winston Churchill saying about success, that it's a series of failures and still enthusiastic at the end of it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, let's get down to some practical stuff. What average guy to improve like his health outcomes or his health prospects, let's get back to some basics. How often should I, at the age of 57, be going to see my doctor?
You're rich every week. Generally speaking, look, a yearly checkup's not a bad idea, but it's always case by case. Like, for example, is there any family history of anything? Is there a family history of prostate cancer? Well, you should be checked every year. Bowel cancer. There's different things that runs in families. So I think, firstly, when you do catch up with a doc, you need a little bit of a risk analysis here to say that, look, mum dropped dead at 42 of a heart attack. You're high risk here, bro. Maybe you come and see us every week. You've got it in my head now. Every year, or just to put your mind at rest, invest $1,000 and get a really good heart check. Then we'll go from there. Because you see, I say to people, like, I've got an awesome Ford Ranger. Every time it gets its full 15K check, it's what, $1,000. Well, bugger the Jeep. Why don't you get a little moped and get your body checked? Hey, so I think the first thing is going there, risk analysis, and then working out a plan from there with your GP if you can find a good one.
All right. And the single lifestyle, apart from going to see the doc, why do you reckon the lifestyle thing is that blokes stuff up on mainly and causes them the most health risk?
Yeah, obviously they're risk takers, like, I was when I was younger. I'm a bit more coy now. Younger men, they tend to risk alcohol and drugs, peer pressure. If you're in a group that's starting to make you do things that aren't right, get out of there, man. It's surprising how the influence of the peers. And look, if you can find yourself a loving, trusting partner too, whether you're straight or you're gay, it doesn't matter. If you can find a loving partner, that makes a huge difference. Men who have a loving partner live a lot longer, and that's a fact. They're never lonely. They've got someone to slap them around, and to encourage them to be healthy. What about you? Have you got a loving partner?
Oh, no, I've got a business to run and an audience. That'll keep me happy. Hey, Dave, really good yarning to you. I reckon we should do this again. And good on you for putting your best foot forward for Men's Health Week. Thank you very much indeed. That is Dave Baldwin. He is making sure us blokes take better care of ourselves.